My 23M boyfriend held me 19F underwater during a bath to prove a point, and I'm still shaken. I'm 19F and have been with my boyfriend 23M for over a year now. We come from different countries and religions, but made it work. I have to mention this. My boyfriend loves turning everything into a competition. We both go to the gym, and he's always like, who can do this better? Even at home, he's always asking, cook better, clean faster, you name it. A week ago, we were relaxing in the bathtub together. He asked who I thought could hold the other underwater the longest. I found it weird and just brushed it off as one of his usual questions. Just 2 to 3 minutes later, he got up as if to get out of the bathtub and suddenly pushed me underwater. He kept me under for what felt like more than 20 seconds. When he finally let go, he started laughing. I'm generally healthy, but I have a heart condition that requires daily medication to keep my heart rate normal. Without meds, my heart rate go up to 140 to 150 bpm. Even with meds, sudden situations like this can make my heart rate spike to 140 and stay between 110 to 120 for the next few days. He knows this. He brought up what happened today and said he apologized, which he did, and that I should get over it. I'm trying. He said he was trying to prove a point, that I need to work on myself more. It doesn't make sense to him because he's naturally stronger than me, and no matter how much I work out, I can't always defend myself against everything successfully. I can't talk to my sister or mother about it. They just ask what I was doing in a bathtub with a guy in the first place, and I still don't have friends here. It's only him, and we've talked about it more than once, and he says if I did this to him, he would have found it funny. I don't know if I just need to loosen up more, but I don't understand how holding underwater for that long was ever funny in his head. He's also complaining now about the marks I left on his wrist/arm, almost faded. I didn't too. It was sudden and I swallowed a bit of water and I was freaking out and just wanted him to let go. I apologized for this but told him it was a natural reaction to what he did. My mom cheated on my dad and left him for his best friend. She made him look like he was the one at fault, and I, 23F, developed a resentment towards him. I recently found out what happened and I feel guilty for being an asshole to my dad, and I want to make it up to him. My mom had been married to my dad for 9 years before she cheated and left him for his best friend, who is my stepdad. My father served in the army and his best friend was this rich guy who I saw hanging out with my mom at that time. During the divorce, my mom told me that my dad was abusive, controlling, and was not there emotionally. That's why she was leaving him. She told me that my dad treated her badly, called her names, and did not love her. At the time, I was only 10 years old. My mom got primary custody and dad was stuck paying child support. I only got to see my dad only 2 weekends per month. After that, I held some resentment towards my dad. I dreaded when it was time to see him. He had sold what used to be our house, moved back to his hometown, opened a mechanic shop, and lived in this shop. He was an alcoholic who always tried to sober up when I came to stay him. He was miserable, lonely, and depressed. He always tried to clean up his house when I went to stay with him, even though it still smelled like alcohol, gunpowder, gasoline, and those car oils. And sometimes I found dirty laundry stacked in the laundry room. When I turned 15, I started to see him less. I refused to go stay with him and made up excuses. I only visited him a few times a year. One day I went to visit him without informing him. I found him drinking while watching a football game. He was surprised to see me. He quickly started getting rid of his beer cans, cleaning his kitchen, asking for if I was hungry so that he could order pizza. And I just lashed out at him and told him that's why mom left him, because he was so miserable and could keep his shit together. I felt guilty afterwards. He loves old classic muscle cars, and when I turned 18, he got me a 1970 Chevrolet Chevelle, which he had fixed it himself. Later, me and mom sold it and got a Honda Civic. Anyway, last week I came to visit my mom. I was planning to stay for the weekend. On Saturday night, I overheard my mom and my stepdad talking about what happened 12 years ago, bragging about their affair and not once even regretting how it affected my dad. All they said that felt sorry for him. I couldn't help but cry. I wanted to confront her, but I couldn't bring myself. I wanted to call her names, insult her, but I didn't have the strength. I was full of mixed emotions, but I felt guilty the most. All this time I held a resentment towards my dad, thinking he was the bad guy, but he was only the victim of my mom's affair. He never recovered from the affair due to his depression and anxiety issues. And all the time I thought he faked to care about me, he genuinely cared for me. And he always tried to stay strong and smile for me. I left the following day and found my dad at his mechanic shop and hugged him. I was crying and he was puzzled, and I kept saying sorry repeatedly. When he managed to calm me down, I told him everything and I apologized even more. And when I asked why he didn't fight my mom for my custody, he told me that he knew that his depression and anxiety issues plus his PTSD would make him to be unfit parents. And he never wanted to ruin the relationship between me and my mom because he knew I loved my mom and his ex-best friend loved me and would take care of me more than he would. He said that it was not my fault and forgave me, and he was happy I found out. I want to make it up to my dad, but I don't know how. Please help. TLDR, mom cheated and left dad bad for his best friend. Made him look bad. I grew resentment towards him. Now I want to make it up to him. Update. Sorry for the late update. It's a bit long, but a few of you insisted I update them. For those who missed out on my previous post, check out my profile. I posted it on my profile. First, thanks to all those who took their time to comment and offer support. As some of you said, there are two sides in every story, and I decided to listen my dad's side. He admitted to being distant and not affectionate after his last deployment due to his PTSD, but the affair had been going on when he was in deployment. I confronted my mum a few days later after my post, and she was defensive at first. She said that I was not grateful for what she did for me and that she simply protected me from my father. She called him a few names. I didn't want to argue, and I had already chosen my next words carefully. I told her that my father was a good man who was broken by the betrayal of the two people he trusted the most, and worst, who turned his own daughter against him. I appreciate and am grateful for everything, but it's time I choose for the parent who put his own daughter's need first, even it means making hard sacrifices, and not the one who wanted the daughter to satisfy her own needs. Goodbye, Mom. I will keep in touch. Before I left, tears had been building in her eyes, and she just remained silent. She has tried to reach out to me, but I just ignore her or ask her to stop disturbing me. I don't to block her, but my message is loud and clear. My aunt has recently reached out to me and told me that my mom is depressed. Well, her husband can take care of her. As for my dad, most of you suggested I sell a Civic and buy the Chevy SPAC. I couldn't find the person I sold it to, but I decided to look for old worn-out muscle cars to fix. I have been searching for a while. It was hard, but I had help of a few friends and even some Redditors who reached out to me on chat. Almost 2 weeks ago, I was lucky and found an old wrecked 1970 Dodge Charger. And yeah, I sold the Civic to afford the Charger. My dad was kind of upset. When I told him the reason, he brightened up. He's been more than happy to show me how to fix it. I bought an apartment an hour away from his mechanic shop. One Redditor suggested I do a makeover at his place. Well, I have been making time, and we have started to renovate and do a makeover. And my friends from college who are studying interior design have decided to help. It took him a little of convincing as he felt embarrassed, but he finally joined the train. Now, every day after college, I go to visit him, and on weekends, I spend time with him and talk about anything. Mostly, he's interested in my life. He likes soccer and is a big fan of Arsenal, so I always keep him company during match days, pick the opponent's team to add fun, and am learning a little of football. Since I sold my car, he has allowed me to use his 1977 Pontiac Firebird. He has been with it since I was 11, and as long as I can remember, he has never let anyone drive it. Since I have been around more often, he has stopped his drinking habits. Maybe a few, and I join him on game nights, but who can blame us? So there is your update. If you made it this far, I guess it is a happy ending. Thanks all of you all again.
Am I the asshole for accidentally raising my voice at my wife and throwing away her dishes and clothes because she won't wash them, just buy new ones? I, 28M, have been married to my wife F30 for 2 years now, together for 5. We were going to start trying for a baby, but that got put on hold and might not happen anymore. My wife and I both work, and we make about the same amount and work about the same amount of hours. My wife and I originally had a chore system set up where we just rock, paper, scissors at the calendar for our days off. We got a pretty fair cut, I want to say, but she did get more dishes days. I got more, if not all, the laundry. My wife hates washing dishes. She hates it with such a passion that she sometimes just shuts down and cries when she sees them in the sink. Before, when I caught her crying, I immediately went to help her, switch chores for the day, calm her down, and then it was fine. But because I was doing this, I noticed that she was crying on purpose, so I washed the dishes. I knew she was faking it because the second I took over, her tears stopped, and she'd go do something fun that she liked without a care in a world, laughing and smiling. No wind down like before. Because of this, we changed our dishes to whoever makes the dish washes it, like children, with the exception of cooking. Whoever cooks doesn't have to wash the pots and pans because they put all the work in for dinner. This was also her suggestion, which I was more than okay with. This was working out for a little while until I noticed that my wife made a lot more dishes than me and just didn't want to wash them. I asked her when she planned on washing dishes after I made dinner at her request, and she blew up on me, telling me to quite literally fuck off. I did as she said, but left the dishes. The next day, she asked me why the dishes weren't done, and I told her because she didn't do them. This started a fight, and I washed them, but I was unhappy. I do most if not all of the laundry because she just won't anymore, and I refuse to wear dirty clothes. The only thing she has to do with the laundry is put it in the basket. That's it. We have a basket for darks, colors, and whites. She insists on her own basket for underwear and whatnot, so that's its own thing, and I hand wash it. She's been not putting her clothes in the basket. At first, I picked up all of her clothes and washed them because it was no big deal, but when I watched her take her clothes off and just leave them on the floor because I always pick it up, I chose to leave her clothes there. She asked me why her clothes weren't done. I said because she didn't put them away, and she blew up on me. Same story. Recently, this all came to a head with all the fighting. My wife has been getting lazier and lazier to push back because of our fights, and at first, I was doing all of her chores on top of working, but I had a little moment of why am I even doing this, and just stopped. The dishes piled, her clothes were dirty, crumbs were everywhere on her days. On my days, everything was spick and span. She decided that she's going to just start buying more dishes and clothes to combat not doing her part. I cannot tell you how frustrated this made me. She was buying plastic spoons and forks, paper plates, Walmart t-shirts, and whatever other cheap alternative to the nice ones she has at home. I just decided to start tossing them. When she noticed that I was tossing her cheap alternatives, she blew up at me again, and for the first time since we've been together, I raised my voice. My voice is deep and I'm a big man, so this scared her, which I regretted. I immediately lowered my tone and told her that she just isn't doing her part and that she's wasting money buying useless things when all she has to do is just clean up after herself and put clothes in a basket. She cried, and despite how many times I apologized, she told me that she doesn't feel safe with me and that maybe we're better off divorcing. This shattered me. She's been cold with me, sleeping on the couch and playing domestic violence signs videos out loud. It's such a low blow. The videos usually talk about yelling, throwing away items, control, emotional abuse, and signs that they're going to get physical. I don't think I'm wrong for what I did, but this is really wearing me down, and I've been getting some texts here and there from our families calling me an asshole, an abuser for throwing away her things and yelling at her, and that she needs to divorce me. The yelling was an accident. No one has wanted to hear what fully happened, and it's making me feel alone and a bit crazy. My friends are either staying out of it or are on her side if they're women. I've been losing friends. I feel like the asshole now. Am I the asshole? All I wanted was for her to clean up after herself. I'd never hurt her, and I've never yelled at her before, which I do regret. I didn't mean to scare her. I was just beyond frustrated because this has been building for months. I get that it was probably immature to throw away the disposables and that I should have just cleaned up after her, but I was just frustrated. TLDR. Wife started buying disposable dishes and cheap Walmart clothes after she stopped doing chores and I didn't pick up after her. She found out, we fought. She's been cold and playing DV sign videos out loud. I feel like the asshole now, but a tiny part of me still feels like I'm not.